Our camera's on Adrian Rice, in the hypercar. Track temperature 38 degrees, and it's dry out there for now. Our camera's on Gilles Lalonde, in the hypercar AM. On board with Norm Graff, in the hypercar AM. On board with James Bowders in the LMGT3 AM. Our camera's on Norm Graff in the hypercar AM. On board with Ryan Palbert Reyes in the LMGT3. In hypercar, Ben Borman tops the times, 1:49.0. That's 0.51 quicker than Johnny Gutierrez. On board with Ben Borman in the hypercar.
On board with Jerry Chen in the hypercar. With Alexander McQuarrie in the LMGT3. On board with Michael Lock, the LMGT3. Cameras on Alan Holden in the LMGT3. On board with Paul Ibbotson in the LMGT3. On board with Stephen Miller in the LMGT3 AM. Hypercar leader, Ben Gorman, 146.9. In LMGT3 AM, Stephen Miller goes fastest with a 2:04.7. in Hypercar AM. Chad Gratias tops the times, 1:48.7.
The hypercars you'll be lining up with 30 seconds ago, you'll see the message on your black box. And Ben Borman, could I please ask you to give the 1 minute and 30-second note to the GT3s, and I should be back in the pit by that point to give the 10-minute mark for the hypercars to head out. It will also be on your black box, and the hypercars get 10 minutes to qualify. We then have 5 minutes of warm up, so you can get the car back into its race setup. We do not do a pit box check here, so when you're racing, we'll talk about the pits in a second. For the start, it is a standing start, and we'll all roll off together in the hypercars, following the leader pairs, and you have 4 minutes to go around the track taking the hypercars. The GT3 leader and their pair mate there, just let the hypercars roll off for a moment or two and give yourself about a 5-second gap behind them, and we'll roll around doing about 80 or 90 kilometers an hour, maybe 100 or so on the stretches. The timing is for the hypercar leader to get back to the start-finish line at the 90-minute mark. You've got 4 minutes to do that. Okay, and the two class leaders are responsible for running themselves through that pace lap in a way that keeps the rest of the field behind them closed up. So don't go sprinting away out of corners and things like that. Just keep everybody together, and the GT3 leader keep about a 5 to 10 car gap to the back of the hypercar field. Start will be by class. As the class leader crosses the start finish line, all the cars in class can start racing. And that's for the hypercars, and then for the GT3s when the GT3 leader crosses the start finish line. We tried that. We tried it a couple times. It's worked out pretty well. So let's see it work here with 22 cars. If during the pace lap you have a problem, you fall out of place, you go off track, join safely at the back of your class. Don't try and push your way back up to your position if you can, back of your class. So you go to the back of your class. If you can't do that safely for whatever reason, and we're talking here principally of the hypercars, if the GT3s are on top of you, you go back to the back of the GT3s. So priority here is be reasonable, safe, and comfortable on the pace lap. You can drag your brakes to warm them up, but no weaving back and forth, no hard accelerations and hard braking. Just get us around so we get a good start. The orange zone today is from the start to T11, which is through the kink. And yeah, so normal racing. Just remember that if you do cause an incident and the stewards feel you've done that you'll be getting an extra heavy penalty. I will be looking at the ozone after the race just to see how things worked out, and submitting things if I see that there's a problem. Blue flags. While I'm talking about penalties, any penalties from this race will be added to the race time for those drivers that finished normally. If you DNF or DQ, it will be served as an active penalty in the next race that you race of this series. Blue flags, I think everyone's clear on a blue flag. You don't have to get out of the way, but don't compete with and don't block a driver that is lapping you. Okay, everyone just play nice with each other. Understand there's places where it's great to make a pass and others where it's not, and just be aware of the fact that you're on two different races when you get a blue flag situation. Track limits have been adjusted here, so it's a bit more reasonable on T1, but you still can get RF2 penalties going through the race. Remember, the CMS rule is you have to keep one wheel on the racing surface. That includes the white line all around the track, if whether RF2 gives you a penalty or not. If you're doing it constantly and the people around whom you are racing feel that you're getting an advantage, they can submit you for an IRR. And even if you have had an RF2 penalty from exceeding track limits, you could also get one from the stewards, because the stewards won't worry about what RF2 did. They're looking at your behavior. When you pit, if you have to pit, make sure you're well right coming out of T14. Enter at the beginning of the entry lane, up to the top. Make sure you get yourself slowed down to the pit speed limit of 60 kilometers an hour and roll to your pit. Stay in the fast lane until you come up to your pit, then dive back in. And on the exit, same thing, out back to the fast lane. Get yourself back up to speed. Stay in the pit lane all the way to the end. Make sure you're staying on the right-hand side of the corner as you're going through, especially when there is traffic coming through as well. For the hot lap traffic, make sure that you're giving room to drivers as they finish the pit lane to get back into the racing surface and racing with you, so give them some room. And yeah, everyone just be respectful, because everyone has to pit on this race and everyone has to come out. Your decision for fuel and tires, there's no obligatory pit. Don't forget about the pit limiter. And as always, the golden rule applies. If you gain a position unfairly by knocking some out of the way, a contact, etc., you've not been a respectful driver, find a place quickly to move over, give the position back, and then get back to racing. It's not going to include dust days, don't have to worry about it. And as usual, escape means race over, no points, and if you're penalized, the penalty goes to the next race. If you get a real issue, Control Delete, Alt F4, disconnect your cable, close RF2, come back, then rejoin, start again and rejoin. You'll be a couple laps down, but at least you'll be in the race for points, and if you have a penalty, you'll be able to have it added to this race instead of the next race. Any questions?
I have one. In the real road America, I saw people, GT3s, go wide on the first corner. Are we allowed to do that? Because with what you just said, we would be passing the white line, like they go well beyond the black curb there.
So if you go over the white line, you're outside the racing area by CMS rules. And if you're in a close competition and you're trying to get back in, there's someone occupying the racing surface, well, you're kind of baked. And if you do it on a regular basis and you're competing hard against someone, they feel you're getting an advantage by going outside, they can put in IRR on you, and by going outside that area, outside that white line, you're off the racing surface. Yes, there's tarmac out there, but it's not racing surface.
Okay, wasn't sure. And also RF2 doesn't give penalty there, so just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, but CMS can if you're doing it on a regular basis.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Thanks.
It does eventually give you a penalty. Believe me, I know.
You have to go far.
Okay.
If you're far
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
out, it will give you a penalty.
If you're not back in relatively quickly, it's going to give you a penalty.
I have
Okay,
a
but
question.
yeah, okay.
Steven.
Sorry, I have a question, Matthew. If it's
Steven?
open.
You said Steven.
Yes, I have a question.
Go for it.
Yes.
When you say they made adjustments to turn one, what did you mean by that? Did you mean they did something on the inside or something on the outside?
Inside.
Inside. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
That's
But
where
it's-
people were getting the track cut.
It might
Yeah,
be
when you,
better.
when, you,
Better.
when you were coming out of the pit lane, you could sometimes get a track cut if you were too
Yeah, well, you
far
still
to
can.
the right.
Well, now you
Don't
can
touch the curb.
kind of kill that curb too, turning in.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult. Yes, you still can, but it's a lot more difficult.
You
Okay.
used to just touch the inside rumble strip and it would give you one. Now you can run over on it and there's no more cuts.
Any more questions? Great. And I think I've covered everything. I did say welcome, Chad, to the race. Glad to have you here. And I'm going to slash us over to Quali and get things going.
Fresh meat.
Well, we'll see.
Settles on
Yeah, I'm
Alan
coming
Holden
back.
in the LMGT3. Practice complete.
you've got
On to
time, Mark.
qualifying now. 20 minutes to find the limit. Clear and dry to begin. 22 degrees ambient. Stephen Miller going for a time. Our camera's on Ryan Paul Reyes in the LMGT3. James Bowder's on a hot lap. Cameras on Max Sunderlap in the LMGT3. Our camera's on Stephen Miller in the LMGT3 amp. Miller keeps provisional pole in LMGT3 amp after that lap. Alan Holden holds onto provisional pole in LMGT3. Riding on board with James Bowders in the LMGT3 amp. No improvement for Eric Jacobs in LMGT3, stays P7. On board with Alan Holden in the LMGT3. Riding on board with Alexander McQuarrie in the LMGT3. Alexander McQuarrie moves up to P4 in class, 204.1. Alan Holden fastest in LMGT3 with a 202.8. Olivier Gervais improves in LMGT3 amp with a 205.2. Daryl Kruger goes P3 in LMGT3 amp, 207.6. James Bowders moves up to P4 in class, 207.7. Matthew Overton stays P5 in LMGT3 after that lap. riding on board with Ryan Colbert Reyes in the LMGT3. A 45.7 first sector for Daryl Kruger, 0.2 seconds off the fastest so far, and a personal best. Good first sector for Tom Nazella, a 45.6, 0.1 seconds off the fastest, but a personal best. Our cameras on Olivier Gervais in the LMGT3 AM. On board with Eric Jacobs in the LMGT3. Olivier Gervais continues to improve through sector 2. Daryl Kruger improves in LMGT3 AM with a 2:07.0. Tom Nazella sets a personal best through sector 1 under pressure from Frank Radowski for P5 in class. Stephen Miller stays quickest in LMGT3 AM, no gain, still on top. Eric Jacobs cannot improve in LMGT3, remains P4. Riding on board with Paul Ibbotson in the LMGT3. Max Sommerlap through sector 1 in 44.7, 0.1 seconds off the quickest, but a personal best. Our cameras on Alexander McQuarrie in the LMGT3. Paul Ibbotson goes P3 in LMGT3, 2:03.7. Riding on board with Alan Holden in the LMGT3. That's Frank Radowski's best sector 3 of the session, chasing Tom Nazella for P5 in pass. LMGT3 AM leader, Stephen Miller, 2:04.4. Our cameras on Micah Locke in the LMGT3. The mercury falling 42 degrees on the track. Sector 1 for Frank Radowski, 46.0, 0.4 seconds off the class best, but a personal best. Our cameras on Daryl Kruger in the LMGT3 AM.
GTs are done, and
Out on a
Hypercars you can
flyer.
start.
Johnny Gutierrez lights up sector 1, 39.7, quickest of the lot, and a personal best. Our camera's on Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Track temperature 43 degrees, and it's dry out there for now. That's the quickest sector 3 we've seen, Brian Hall. That's the sector 3 of the session, Norm Gruff, on board with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Jerry Chen moves up to P3 in class, 148.8. Jake Tammy improves in hypercar with a 150.0. Our camera's on Norm Graf in the hypercar AM. Adrian Rice goes P6 in hypercar, 150.8. On board with Chad Gracias in the hypercar AM. Adrian Rice improves his first sector to 40.3, a personal best. Norm Gruff going for a time. On board with Adrian Rice in the hypercar. To go. Ben Borman keeps provisional pole in the hypercar after that lap. Our camera's on Jerry Chen in the hypercar. No improvement for Gil Lalonde in hypercar AM, stays P3. Jerry Chen stays P3 in hypercar after that lap. 1 minute remaining. A 40.
I don't expect anyone with 22 cars be overlapped, but just stay on the right of the pit box when you come in, so you line up the right-hand crew with the center of your car, and that'll leave room for anyone else if they come in. It's also good for people getting in and out around you.
Matthew, I have to go out and come back in again. My shifter's not working.
Okay.
All right, let's see how this is going to go. Let's do some drifting for 15 laps.
Burn up those tires, Alan.
Oh, I will.
So everybody will be waiting for Stephen to come back in, so it might be a bit longer than the 5 minutes.
Didn't know where you were going.
It's all good, man.
Just don't be like the LMP2s were in the real life race. I swear at least one LMP2 spun every single restart. Coming out of that final corner.
And yet somehow they were still safer than the GTPs.
Yeah, everyone was just wild in that race. They gave them 4 extra hours at Road America, and they made the most of it.
Our camera's on Jerry Chen in the hypercar. Warm-up session underway. 4 minutes to prepare. Track temperature 38 degrees and it's dry out there for now. On board with Frank Radosti in the LMGT3 AMP. Our camera's on Adrian Rice in the hypercar.
I might have a penalty, Matt.
You'll be okay.
It won't carry over.
No, it won't carry over. You're okay.
I pushed the wrong button for pit limiter.
Should label those.
How can you put the? Oh, you hit the wrong button.
Yeah.
Just remember to do that in the race too, please.
Pick a lane, Alan.
And not to be a whiny
Just be decisive.
hypercar driver, but some of your GTs are just going right down the middle of the back straight. You gotta pick a side there.
Good for the right line. Good for the right line. So, Steven, let me know when you're all set to start.
He joined the game, joined the race.
He has. He's joined the race, so he's
Yeah.
just waiting for him to say he's good to go. And Alan, you get the choice of which side of the rows you'd like to be on. So you'll be the singleton up front. Everyone else will stay paired up behind you.
On board with Jerry Chen in the hypercar.
Maybe I misunderstood. Are we side by side? Or is it
So
staggered?
it'll be, yes, it's a side-by-side start. Well, you'll be slightly staggered, but you'll be by yourself. So
On board with Northgraf in the
pair up.
hypercar AM.
You'll be a singleton because there's an odd number of
got it.
hypercars, right? Be out there by yourself, and then the two cars behind you. And the GTs will be lined up and paired up. How you doing, Steve? Is it something that you can
Our
fix,
cameras on
or
Alan Holden
are
in
you
the
done?
LMGT3.
I just changed the cable, but I got to restart the wheel.
All right, I'll restart it. I'll restart the section or the warm up just in. Sorry,
Oh, dear God, it's been a year since that's done
That was
that.
scary. Scary.
That was weird. That's never happened to me before.
They stopped that from happening.
I think I just broke my wrist.
Yeah, sorry about that.
They got rid of that.
That's the end of the warm-up. The warm-up begins 10 minutes available.
You got to upgrade to LMU for that, Ben.
Clear and dry to begin. 20 degrees
Yeah, they got
ambient.
Daytona now, so it's actually a good sim now.
Okay, Stephen, I'll give you till 5 minutes, and then we're starting the race.
On board with Paul Ibbotson in the LMGT3.
He's got the soundboard with the sound of a whip cracking.
Yeah, where's Ross when you get to provide the sound effects? I know he's here.
Broadcast computer is having a problem. It's been fixed. Thank you, sir.
The camera settles on Alan Holden in the LMGT3.
I just hope that by restarting the warm-up it hasn't sent a fur ball down battle director's through.
Probably, but hopefully Ross is watching.
We don't need George. Don't need George. We're okay.
Our cameras on Olivier Gervais in the LMGT3 AM. riding on board with Norm Graff in the Hypercar AM.
And the Mustang doesn't have the same brake as the Porsche.
Yeah, Porsche has great brakes.
No, it
You
does.
find that in real life too.
It's better brakes, has more grip.
Gets more kicks.
Now do I get the updated brakes like the Lambo did IRL?
It has the same brake, except it's arms, right? Ain't no anvil.
Yeah, I nearly rear-ended Paul there.
That's never good.
It's some fancy brakes, right? Yeah.
Makes the whole ring hold.
Really appropriate language.
The thing.
The thing.
I think I almost rear-ended it with my left shaft.
Check settings. Maybe it's recognizing the
Recognizing it in the
USB.
calibration.
Yeah, sometimes if I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
have my
definitely.
SLI plugged in first, my steering wheel shows up as a second controller instead of the first.
On board with Alan Holden in the LMGT3.
Concerned that the Porsches are pulling away on the race pace. I really don't want to have to drop the wing. Really don't. Not going to for this race.
Even how we're going.
Mr. Ross.
Letting that the
Shift
focus
will
set up the
calibrate, but it will not shift in the game.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move forward to race. You're here, you just go to gridded, so you'll be in the pit, and if you get it figured out, you can join the race, okay? Guys, we're going
But I
to the
have to
next section.
reboot. I have to reboot.
Hold on, Steven.
Well, then
wait.
I can't wait any longer, Steven. I've given you 10 extra minutes,
On
so
board
I'm
with Ben
sorry, but I
Borman.
got to move.
As
on.
long as you're in the game when the race starts, you can come and go if you have to reboot.
Yeah. So wait.
Just
and-
remember to kill rFactor.
Our cameras on
Yeah,
Chad
wait until
Gutierrez
the
in
timer goes down
Hypercar
to
AM.
0 and that the race officially starts. Then you can leave the server and do reboot, and that will allow you to rejoin the race later.
Yep. Just kill RF2. Don't escape.
Warm up complete. The race is
The
next.
cars have to do 2 sector.
No, we just have to take the green flag.
In other words, you mean do like we do when we crash.
As
Yeah,
soon as
so,
we leave for the
use
formation, we'll have
Alt
the
F4
timer
or
started.
Control Delete, but make sure that the green flag has been taken so you're officially in the race. Even though you haven't gridded, you're in the race.
Right.
Okay, 30 seconds, everybody.
Still feels like a waste of time.
Well,
You never know who's going to crash.
I understand.
Steven,
You do
point.
what you can. 20 seconds.
But I shouldn't hit drive.
You definitely should hit drive.
Definitely should or shouldn't.
You have to be in the
Too
pit.
late.
Come on.
Ow.
No.
When it goes green here.
Now he's
I'm on
no
the grid
guys.
And here we have
Now
the
you've
grid
made
for
a mess,
today's race.
guys. He
23
should've just
cars
stayed in
across
the
4
pit, because
classes.
now he's going to have to get
Beginning
out
with Hypercar.
immediately.
Ben Borman leads Hypercar
you're gonna
in the
run
number
into me
93
when you
Acura
Yeah, well,
ARX
they'll
06
not run
Evo.
into because they'll go around.
At
Just
P2,
kill
Johnny
rFactor 2
Gutierrez
now.
in the number 2 Cadillac V Series R Evo.
Yeah, because the
Jerry
race is technically
Chen
started
in
now.
the number
Yes.
66 Porsche
So kill
963
rFactor 2 now.
P3.
Do your
P4,
restart,
Jay Tammy in
rejoin the
number
server,
15
you will be able
BMW
to leave the
Hybrid
pit
V8
lane.
Evo.
You mean I got
Brian Hall, number 1 Cadillac V
Yes.
Series.
Yeah, just
Evo
turn your computer
P5.
all the way off. You're going to
Adrian Rice
reboot it
in the
anyway.
number
Yeah,
24
hard
BMW
reboot.
M Hybrid V8
Yes, we'll
Evo
have to leave
V6.
the gap for where Steven
Next up,
was.
Hypercar Am. Top of Hypercar Am, Gilles Lalonde in the number 3
Yeah, I'm
Cadillac
surrounded by
V Series R Evo.
Yeah, he was in
P2,
front of me.
Chad
So
Gratias in the number 3 Cadillac V Series R Evo. At P3, Norm Gruff in the number 13
Leave the
Aston
gap
Martin
beside Eric.
Valkyrie. And now LMGT3.
That means you're beside me.
At the front of LMGT3, Alan Holden in the number 25 Lamborghini Temerario
Even had he
GT3.
not made the grid, there would
Ryan
still be
Paul
that
Reyes,
space.
number 22 Porsche 911 GT3 992 P2.
Watch out, Matthew. A couple of bad
P3,
touches.
Alexander McQuarrie in the number 23
Yeah, I see
Porsche
him.
911 GT3
Bad touch,
992
bad
Sue.
karma.
Michael Off in the number 2 Porsche 911 GT3 1992 P4. Max Somethinglat, number
get a
6
little more
Ford
gap,
Mustang
please?
Evo GT3 P5. P6 Paul Ibbotson in the number 165 Porsche 911 GT3 992 At P7 Eric Jacobs in the number 24
Remember, for both
Ford Mustang
classes,
Evo
it's when
GT3.
you're
Matthew
leader
Overton,
process
number
starts
174 Ferrari 296 Evo GT3 P8. Now LMGT3 AM. Leading LMGT3 AM, Stephen Miller in the number 424 McLaren 720S Evo. P2, Olivier Gervais in the number 82 Ford Mustang Evo GT3. James Bowders in the number 92 Porsche 911 GT3 1992 P3. Daryl Kruger, number 94 McLaren 720S Evo P4. At P5, Tom Nacella in the number 911 Porsche 911 GT3 1992 Frank Radosti in the number 912 Porsche 911 GT3 1992 P6.
Slow down a bit there, young Gervais. You gotta be equal with me.
shall I be equal with Eric? No, it's with you.
No, because that's where Steven was.
Leave the gap.
Everybody, have a good race out there, and like to see everyone make it to the finish.
Max Somethinglat fights back, holds P6 in LMGT3. They're away. 23 cars now racing. 89 minutes at Road America GP Circuit. Hypercar, Hypercar AM, LMGT3, LMGT3, LMGT3 AM. Good conditions to start with. Dry track and 42 degrees on the surface. Trouble for James Bowders in LMGT3 AM. On board with Gilles Lalonde, catching the hypercar of Johnny Gutierrez. 3 cars scrapping over P4. Brian Hall, Jerry Chen and Adrian Rice. Jay Tammy closing on the hypercar arm of Gilles Lalonde. On board with Norm Graff, catching the hypercar of Adrian Rice. On board with Jay Tammy, catching the hypercar arm of Gilles Lalonde. Nose to tail for P3, Jerry Chen and Brian Hall in the pack. trackside with Alan Holden in the LMGT3. Three cars scrapping over P2. Michael Locke, Ryan Paulbert Reyes and Alexander McQuarrie. On board with Norm Graff reeling in the hypercar of Adrian Rice. The camera finds Alan Holden in the LMGT3. Jake Tammy reeling in the hypercar arm of Gilles Lalonde. Three cars scrapping over P3. Alexander McQuarrie, Michael Locke and Paul Ibbotson. Tracking Alan Holden in the LMGT3. Our camera's on Ben Borman in the hypercar. Our camera's on Alan Holden in the LMGT3. And still right there in the fight for the class lead, second lap of this scrap. While we were elsewhere, Daryl Kruger stopped on track on lap 1. Daryl Kruger all over James Bowders for 4th. Back-living hypercar and Johnny Gutierrez is right in the thick of it. On board with Johnny Gutierrez, chasing Ben Borman for the lead. On board with Norm Graff closing on the hypercar of Adrian Rice. On board with Jerry Chen, chasing Jake Tammy for 3rd. On board with Norm Graff, catching the hypercar of Adrian Rice. On board with Jerry Chen, hunting Jake Tammy for 3rd. On board now, chasing Jake Tammy for 3rd. Tom Nazella moves into P1 in LMGT3 AM. GT Tammy closing on the hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. In hypercar, Ben Borman tops the times, 150.5. Hypercar AM leader, Chad Gratias, 151.6. Jerry Chen all over Jake Tammy for 3rd. G Tammy reeling in the hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. Here's Michael Locke's pass on Ryan Paulbert Reyes in LMGT3. Michael Locke all over Alan Holden for the lead. Chad Gracias has problems in Hypercar AM. And we're back live. Hypercar, Johnny Gutierrez right in the mix. On board with Johnny Gutierrez, chasing Ben Borman for the lead. The track temperature has moved to 42 degrees. On board with Norm Graff, reeling in the hypercar of Adrian Rice. On board with Jay Tammy, catching the hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. 3 cars nose to tail, Brian Hall, Jerry Chen and Adrian Rice. On board with Norm Graff, catching the hypercar of Adrian Rice. Here's that LMGT3 passed by Paul Ibbotson on Alexander McQuarrie. 3 cars scrapping over P4, Paul Ibbotson, Alexander McQuarrie and Eric Jacobs. We rejoin the hypercar order, Adrian Rice in a fast-changing fight. On board with Jay Tammy, reeling in the hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. On board with Johnny Gutierrez, hunting Ben Borman for the lead. Jerry Chen all over Jake Tammy for 3rd. On board with Johnny Gutierrez, chasing Ben Borman for the lead. On board with Jay Tammy, closing on the hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. Great progress from Jerry Chen. Now P3 in Hypercar. Let's see what happens. Back in Hypercar, and Brian Hall is right in the thick of it. In LMGT3 AM, Olivier Gervais goes fastest with a 2:06.0, that's 2.53 quicker than Tom Lozella. Adrian Rice all over Brian Hall for fourth. On board with Norm Gruff, reeling in the hypercar of Adrian Rice. Here's something interesting we missed. Issues for Norm Gruff in Hypercar, and Adrian Rice retakes P6 in Hypercar. Adrian Rice climbs one position to P5 in Hypercar, and we're back live in Hypercar. JG Tamim right in the mix. Jerry Chen closing on the Hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. And Stephen Miller drops out of the race from P6 in LMGT3 AM. Eric Jacobs consistently faster through the first sector. Eric Jacobs all over Paul Ibbotson for fifth. Nothing between them. The camera settles on Ben Borman in the Hypercar. On board with Jerry Chen, catching the Hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. Our camera's on Johnny Gutierrez in the Hypercar. On board with Jerry Chen, reeling in the Hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. We'll keep an eye on James Bowder's situation. Another look at Chad Gratier's overtaking Norm Graf in Hypercar AM. Hypercar AM Norm Graf in trouble. rejoin the hypercar order, Jerry Chen in a fast-changing fight. On board with Jerry Chen, closing on the hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. Jerry Chen right on the gearbox wheel to wheel, 0.7 seconds back. On board with Eric Jacobs chasing Paul Ibbotson for 5th. Trackside with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Johnny Gutierrez pushing for the lead. On board with James Bowders in the LMGT3 AM. While the action has quieted down, let's revisit an earlier moment. Back led in LMGT3, Paul Ibbotson now. 3 cars nose to tail, Paul Ibbotson, Alexander McQuarrie and Eric Jacobs. On board with Johnny Gutierrez, chasing Ben Borman for the lead. Camera finds Ben Borman in the hypercar. On board with Alan Holden, chasing Michael Locke for the lead. The camera settles on Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Brian Hall has problems in hypercar. Here's the replay. Back live in hypercar and Jerry Chen is right in the thick of it. Jerry Chen closing on the hypercar AM of Gilles Lalonde. On board with Jay Tammy, chasing Brian Hall for 5th. Jay Tammy slides back 1 position to P5 in hypercar. Let's see Jay Tammy's move on Brian Hall in hypercar. And we're back live, hypercar, Jerry Chen right in the mix. On board with Max Sulkerlap in the LMGT3. Let's look back at something we missed earlier. Join the hypercar order, Jay Tammy in a fast-changing fight. Issues for Chad Gratias in hypercar AM. The camera settles on Chad Gratias in the Hypercar Am. Adrian Rice all over J. Tammy for fourth. In Hypercar, Ben Borman tops the times 1:49.1. Retirement for Chad Gratias out of the Hypercar Am race from P2. On board with Brian Hall, chasing Adrian Rice for fifth. The camera settles on Adrian Rice in the Hypercar.
Car Canada.
Brian Hall holds P5 in Hypercar. Here's Brian Hall's pass on Adrian Rice in Hypercar. And we're back live, Hypercar Am, Gilles Lalonde up to P1. Here's something interesting we missed. We rejoin the Hypercar Am action, Gilles Lalonde running P1. On board with Gilles Lalonde, catching the Hypercar of Jerry Chen. Hypercar leader, Ben Borman, 1:48.9. Gilles Lalonde is faster in, but J. Tammy gets the better exit from the first and final sectors. That's where J. Tammy is making time through the first sector.
Oh, Alan.
Ken?
Ben Borman is quicker through the first sector. Watch the incident. Back live in Hypercar, Johnny Gutierrez now P2. Trackside with Johnny Gutierrez in the Hypercar. Riding on board with Ben Borman in the Hypercar. in LMGT3 AM, Stephen Miller goes fastest with a 2:05.7. On board with Stephen Miller in the LMGT3 AM. Riding on board with Jerry Chen in the hypercar. On board with Jay Tammy in the hypercar. On board with Brian Hall in the hypercar. LMGT3 Paul Ibbotson in trouble. Let's see what happened. And we're back live, hypercar, Ben Borman up to P1. Our camera's on Jay Tammy in the hypercar. The camera finds Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Alan Holden is done for the day, retiring from P8 in LMGT3. The gap is stretching out for Johnny Gutierrez. Camera is holding this shot. Lead change in LMGT3 AM. Olivier Gervais is now P1. first sector is where Ben Borman pulls away. That's where Ben Borman is making time through the first sector. Our camera's on Brian Hall in the hypercar. GT Tammy extending the lead. On board with Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Onboard camera on Ben Borman in the hypercar. Ben Borman and Johnny Gutierrez trading advantages through the first and final sectors. Ben Borman is making time through the middle sector. Alexander McQuarrie off the lead by 1, under pressure from Eric Jacobs for P3 in class. Tracking Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Tammy closing on the hypercar arm of Gilles Lalonde. Tracking Ben Borman in the hypercar. Trouble for Adrian Rice in hypercar. On the replay now. Back left in hypercar, and Jay Tammy is right in the thick of it. On board with Jay Tammy catching the hypercar amp of Gilles Lalonde.
on through, James.
Thank you.
No problem.
Ryan Paul Reyes takes the lead in LMGT3. On board with Jay Tammy, reeling in the hypercar arm of Gilles Lalonde. Jay Tammy with the entry, Brian Hall with the exit in the first and final sectors. Johnny Gutierrez holding P2. Gilles Lalonde has found some pace in the last few laps. The camera settles on Jerry Chen in the hypercar. On board with Jay Tammy, closing on the hypercar arm of Gilles Lalonde. Issues for Ryan Paul Reyes in LMGT3. Here's the replay. And we're back live, hypercar, JT Tummy right in the mix. Olivier Gervais moves into P1 in LMGT3 and Jay Tammy still won't give up this fight. The times are coming down for Gilles Lalonde. Jay Tammy has the advantage at the first sector. Our cameras on Ben Borman in the hypercar. Ben Borman carries more speed through the middle sector. Jay Tammy reeling in the hypercar arm of Gilles Lalonde. Quicker laps now from Jay Tammy. Riding on board with Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. On board with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Ben Borman has found some pace in the last few laps. Ben Borman has the advantage through the middle sector. The camera settles on Jay Tammy in the hypercar. Jay Tammy is quicker on the power out of the final sector. Our camera's on Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Our camera's on Ben Borman in the hypercar. Ben Borman is getting into a rhythm now. at the halfway mark. 48 minutes left. Onboard camera on Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Trackside with Jerry Chen in the hypercar. Johnny Gutierrez has been quicker pulling away. The camera settles on Ben Borman in the hypercar. In the cockpit with Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Johnny Gutierrez still in the fight for the class lead, second lap of this scrap. Trackside with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Trackside with Jay Tammy in the hypercar. board once more with Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Ben Borman still in the fight for second in class, second lap of this scrap. Riding on board with Jay Tommy in the hypercar. The camera finds Ben Borman in the hypercar. Jay Tommy is quicker through the first sector. Ben Borman brakes later, JT Tammy exits faster at the first and final sectors. Ben Borman leads 28 laps in. The camera settles on Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Ben Borman is pulling away, gap up by 2.5 seconds. riding on board with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Hypercar AM, Gilles Lalonde tops the times 1:51.0. Ben Borman gets a better exit from the final sector. Still riding on board. Gap now 31.6 seconds for Johnny Gutierrez. Johnny Gutierrez has the edge on entry to the first sector. Staying with this one. Jerry Chen and Jay Tammy trading time through the first and final sectors. Our cameras on Ben Borman in the hypercar. The lap times are starting to drop off for Ben Borman. Camera settles on Brian Hall in the hypercar. On board with Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Johnny Gutierrez and Jerry Chen trading advantages through the first and final sectors. Onboard camera on Ben Borman in the hypercar. That's where Ben Borman is making time, through the first sector. On board with Gilles Lalonde catching the hypercar of Brian Hall. Different approaches at the first and final sectors. Gilles Lalonde carries more speed. Michael Lock accelerates harder. Quicker laps now from Brian Hall. Tracking Ben Borman in the hypercar. Ben Borman brakes later. Johnny Gutierrez exits faster at the first and final sectors. On board with Gilles Lalonde, reeling in the hypercar of Brian Hall. On board with Alexander McQuarrie in the LMGT3. Gilles Lalonde has the advantage at the first sector. Max Sunderlap started P5 in LMGT3 and has worked up to P3, 2 places made. Can he hold on to this podium spot? On board with Matthew Overton, catching the LMGT3 AM of Olivier Gervais. And still right there, in the thick of it, second lap of this scrap. Up 4 places from his P8 start in LMGT3, Matthew Overton now runs P4. Matthew Overton still climbing, 4th in class now, up from P8 in class. On board with Matthew Overton, reeling in the LMGT3 AM of Olivier Gervais. trackside with Brian Hall in the hypercar. The camera finds Jerry Chen in the hypercar. Jerry Chen has found some pace in the last few laps. On board with Jill Lalonde closing on the hypercar of Brian Hall. Jill Lalonde right up behind, only 0.5 seconds in. The camera finds Brian Hall in the hypercar. Jill Lalonde has had over a minute of this duel and still no way through. Frank Radosti has taken the LMGT3 AM lead. The times are coming down for Brian Hall. Our cameras on Ben Borman in the hypercar. Tracking Brian Hall in the hypercar. Jerry Chen is building a cushion.
Sorry, James. Come on, Arthur.
No, I'm drafting off you.
Get over there.
Gilles Lalonde has cut the gap by 5.7 seconds. Gilles Lalonde right with the hypercar Jerry Chen now. Trackside with Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. And still right there in the fight for the class lead, second lap of this scrap. Our camera's on Ben Borman in the hypercar. The camera settles on Olivier Gervais in the LMGT3 AM. Olivier Gervais is losing touch with Frank Radosti. On board with Olivier Gervais, catching the LMGT3 of Matthew Overton. And we have a new hypercar leader, Ben Borman. Olivier Gervais in the LMGT3 AM closing on the LMGT3 of Matthew Overton. On board with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Let's see what happened. We rejoin the hypercar action, JT Tummy running P2. The camera finds J Tummy in the hypercar. cockpit with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Jerry Chen holding station on the lead lap, chasing G. Tammy for P3 in class. Staying on board here. G. Tammy's climbed one spot in Hypercar since P4 to currently sit at P3. Can he hold on to this podium spot? Another look at Jerry Chen overtaking J. Tammy in Hypercar. Back to Jerry Chen running P4 in Hypercar. Jerry Chen consistently faster through the first sector. Our camera's on Brian Hall in the hypercar. Jules Lalonde had a significant problem on lap 37. Here's what we missed. We rejoin the hypercar order, Jerry Chen in a fast-changing fight. On board with Jerry Chen, chasing G. Tammy for third. On board now, chasing J. Tammy for third. The first sector is where Jerry Chen pulls away. Riding on board with Frank Radosti in the LMGT3 AMP. Tracking J. Tammy in the hypercar. J. Tammy still in the fight for third in class, second lap of this scrap. The camera finds Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. Our cameras on J. Tammy in the hypercar. That's where Jerry Chen is making time through the first sector. Camera setters on Ben Borman in the hypercar. Ten minutes to go. Tracking Johnny Gutierrez in the hypercar. J. Tammy braking deeper into the first sector. Our cameras on J. Tammy in the hypercar. Jerry Chen accelerating harder from the final sector. Trackside with Ben Borman in the hypercar. Ben Borman with the entry, Johnny Gutierrez with the exit at the first and final sectors. Our cameras on J. Tammy in the hypercar. Jerry Chen pushing for third. Riding on board with Paul Ibbotson in the LMGT3. On board with Jerry Chen hunting J. Tammy for third. And still right there in the fight for third in class, second lap of this scrap. Our cameras on J. Tammy in the hypercar. The middle sector is where Jerry Chen is quicker. On board with Jerry Chen, still after J. Tammy for third. Tammy's chipping away at Johnny Gutierrez's lead, 47.6 seconds now. The camera lingers here. Jerry Chen carries more speed to the middle sector. Riding on board with Alexander McQuarrie in the LMGT3. On board with Jerry Chen chasing G. Tommy for third. Jerry Chen still in the fight for third in class, second lap of this strap. Jerry Chen is making time through the middle sector. On board with Eric Jacobs in the LMGT3. Riding on board with Ben Borman in the Hypercar. Two minutes remaining. The camera settles on Jay Tammy in the Hypercar. On board with Jerry Chen hunting third. On board with Michael Locke in the LMGT3. Pace from Jerry Chen through the middle sector. One minute left in the session. Onboard camera on Ben Borman in the hypercar. Race complete. On to cool down. Ben Borman takes the hypercar win. Second in hypercar goes to Johnny Gutierrez. P3 in hypercar, G. Tammy. Victory in hypercar AM for Gilles Lalonde. Runner-up in hypercar AM, Chad Gratias. Third in hypercar AM is Norm Graf. Michael Lott wins the LMGT3. Eric Jacobs finishes P2 in LMGT3.
Okay, that looks like everybody.
Max Something rounds out the
Congratulations on
LMGT3
taking
podium.
the win in the
Checkered
hypercar
flag for
and
Olivier
Gilles
Gervais
picking up
in
the,
LMGT3 AM. Second in LMGT3 AM goes to Frank Radosky.
Running. Well done.
P3 in
Mika picking up the
LMGT3
GT
AM,
win over
Daryl
Eric.
Kruger.
Nice racing out
Jerry
front
Chen,
there, guys.
home P4
And,
in hypercar.
Olivier picks
Filling
up
out the hypercar
AM
order,
win
P5 Brian
in
Hall.
the, GT3. So,
Onto the rest of the
good race,
hypercar
guys.
field.
I didn't
P6
see a whole lot of
Adrian
things
Rice.
going on. I saw a few people
Alexander
dropping out
McQuarrie,
for
home
various
P4
reasons.
in
We did have,
LMGT3.
five.
Filling
Alan
out the
in a
LMGT3
particularly
order,
spectacular
P5
way.
Matthew Overton.
But
LMGT3
all the rest, I'm
P6
not
for
sure
Paul
what
Ibbotson.
happened. So, good race,
P7
guys.
in LMGT3,
Yeah,
Ryan
Stephen, good
Pulbert
job not
Reyes.
giving up and
Onto the
coming
rest
back
of the
to race.
LMGT3 field, P8
good to have
Alan
you out
Holden.
picked up the
LMGT3 AM
points in
P4
your,
with Tom Nacella.
your head of pilot.
P5 in LMGT3 AM James Bowders. Filling out the
Nice run,
LMGT3 AM order,
And
P6
Ben,
Stephen Miller.
congrats.
Matthew,
Well,
thanks
Mac.
for putting the show on.
And Brian,
Thank you.
I had two wobble, Brian. One in front and then one in the back.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a shame. I ran the same tires the whole race.
No,
Actually,
What?
I went and tried for the hards up front just to see how it would work. I got there. I finished.
Yeah, that's good. That's me. What I was trying to get back to you at the end there, it was just a question of how much my tire was going to degrade, and I would lose it on that, or I would get to you, and the tire went away before.
Mac, thank you for that front sway bar tip. It really helped.
Oh, good.